Hello guys, and welcome back to another video in my DIY analog synthesizer series. Okay, so today I'm just gonna be doing a small presentation on my new prototype, which is an analog monophonic synthesizer module, which is the Ad-vantage 02. As you've seen previously in the Ad-vantage 03, this is very much similar architecture. However, it's a bit more cut down, but where we lose some things, we gain a few other bits and pieces here and there. Not massively, but just a few little pieces, little nice touches here and there. Okay, so what we have here, up here, is a small patch panel. We have our velocity CV input, we've got a gate input, and we have our CV in, and our audio master jack out here. So what I'm going to do, this is all hooked up to the key step right now. And let's pop in the that jack. I'll push the power on, and there we go. And just make sure I have a gate trigger first and foremost. Yep, there we go. See those envelopes firing. Right, so what we have here is two oscillators. This is the basic signal path. We've got two oscillators here, oscillator 1, oscillator 2, and we have two filters here. Filter 1 and filter 2. Both of these filters are 12 decibel per octave multi-mode filters with notches as well, switch and notch, based on the Oberheim SEM design, and they are really nice sounding filters. I wanted to design something with it slightly different, a different sound character rather than have them all sounding the same. Just gives you a little bit of a variation in palette. Right, so what we have here is all mixable waveforms. We have saw, variable pulse, triangle wave, and sub oscillator, and then we have the sub octave switches here, so you can go between -1 and -2, which is a clock divided from the master oscillator. Same thing here. We have synchronization, so VCO2 is the master, VCO1 is the slave, but we also have it on VCO2, so we can do that. We can sort of cross between the two to get some craziness going on. And we've also got our modulation switches here, so we can select the envelope 1, or we can go between we can change to the LFO. This is just a modulation on and off switch. I also wanted to make it so when you turn it into the off position as well, we can have this can go to a how shall I say it, a jack, where you can use external modulation. We have FM on, FM off, quite straightforward like the 03 version. Both have coarse, both have fine tuning, modulation depth, noise control here. This is an undesignated part at the moment, which I'm going to try and think of something useful for here. Over to the filters, we got the oscillation input gains. We have the cutoffs for both, and the resonance control. We also have our mode switches here. We can go between from high. Or sorry, I think I've actually got this the wrong way around. This should be from low pass, band pass, and high pass. But don't watch that, we can sort that out, we can deal with that another time. Okay, so yeah, so we go from high pass, band pass to low pass, and we can have any sort of modes. Both these filters are connected in series, and they both go through to the amplifier section, which is over here. So where this slightly differs from the 03 version, we don't have the wave folder. We still have an LFO to modulate that. We can modulate that at almost, the LFO goes quite into highish audio rates, not massively, but high enough. And we have the LFO depth there, but we've also got a velocity switch here. So what we can do is turn use the MIDI to send a control voltage out for velocity, so it can respond to MIDI velocity, or we can have it on a constant control voltage, and we just use the sort of normal. It just responds normally. So we still got the sort of glide minimum and maximum amount here, vibrato rate, and this is the vibrato depth. When we have this on the square wave vibrato, it actually brings up and down the sound exactly 1 octave apart. So I tune that in nicely to give it a bit of sort of more musical. Can't think of the word. I'm sure you can. Anyway, so. Let's have a listen to the basics. Let's have a listen to the oscillators. So here is the sawtooth. Okay, so that's our first oscillator. Now I'm going to bring in a sawtooth from the second. Okay, so that's our two oscillators together, two saw waves. All the waveforms are mixable. As you can see, we've got volume controls for all of them, so we can have a mix between, say, a saw and a pulse. We can also bring in a triangle wave. We can also get kind of like, you know, the shark tooth waveforms as on the mini Moog. So right now we have just a triangle wave. And we can bring in a sub oscillator. Okay, so we also have manual pulse width adjustment, so we can go from 50% duty cycle, which is a square, and then we can go to almost 100% each way, which almost gives you like zero, goes through, I can't remember what the word is, the terminology, through zero, that's the one I was looking for. So what we have now, so that's our pulse. And let's change the duty cycle of the pulse. And we also have a manual stroke LFO blend potentiometer. So if we go over to the LFO, we're not gonna hear anything until we engage the pulse width rate. So we have a pulse width modulation rate LFO per oscillator, and each one is independent, so they have nothing to do with this LFO down here. They each have their own pulse width modulation LFOs. So let's take a quick listen to the one on oscillator 1, and then we can also use this to change the intensity. Okay, so that's our pulse width, and let's just have a listen to the triangle on its own. So a very pure triangle with literally hardly any glitch on it. A very, very nice shape. I will show you, I'll do another video with a scope view as well. What else do we have? Obviously we have the coarse tune and the fine tune. I think the fine tune, I've kind of done that so we've got it literally goes between do you know what, I'm actually kind of lost for words. I'm doing this all literally on the fly, unrehearsed. So it literally goes between plus and minus, whatever, cents between a note. This coarse tune gives us about a 3-octave range. Don't quote me on that, but let's okay, so, and we'll start to mix some waveforms or oscillators here. So that's oscillator 1 and 2 together. Also on VCO1 we have a control for our white noise generator. I almost missed that little trick. Okay, so that's our noise generator. Now let's go back to basics. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to bring in some pulse. Some pulse on VCO2. Right, okay, so let's bring... And don't forget we can blend all 8 waveforms together. We got 2 sub-oscillators, all the 3 basic waveforms, plus we got a noise generator as well. So I think the temptation is when you get a synthesizer like this is to crank up all the waveforms to maximum gain. You kind of got to use a bit of a balance to get those unique waveforms, which are kind of in between crossfading. Okay, over to the filters now. We have input gain. And the thing is, these are SEM based filters. They don't like to be pushed too hard. When you start to push them too hard, we kind of get more of a sort of almost an MS-20 screaming tone, especially when we have the resonance cranked up. Anyway, let's just have a listen to an oscillator, single oscillator sawtooth through the filter, which is in low pass mode, but sillily enough labeled high pass. Should be the other way around. Never mind. We also got key tracking on there. So the further up the range we go, the brighter the sound is. The further down we go, the duller the tone is. It's, you know, trying to emulate real life acoustic instruments. So. Okay. Let's turn the key tracking off. Modulation depth. We've also, let's go into band pass. And into high pass. And this is our master cutoff control. So basically what the master cutoff control does, because these 2 filters are linked in series, it basically sweeps both filters off together. So we get a more of a 24 dB response, as these are both 12 dB plus 12 dB stacked together. Let's listen to the notch mode. We can either have some resonance in it, but what the resonance tends to do is it tends to boost the cutoff peaks or the cutoff knees of the band of the frequencies it's trying to cut out, so we kind of lose a bit of that notch character. So it's sometimes best to use the notch without the resonance on at all. But we can, when we're in notch mode, it's basically combining a low pass and a high pass together. I tried to put that on a potentiometer so it was state variable, but for some reason I kept getting bleed through from one or the other, so I literally ditched it in the end and just kept it as this. I think I'll look into that again in the future at some point. Right, let's go back into low pass mode. So because we're in notch mode, we're either in low pass or high pass, we're still engaging that notch mode. So let's hear a little bit of resonance. So about 25%. Let's go for about 50%. Can you hear how gnarly that gets as we overdrive that filter? Let's put a bit of envelope modulation in. This is the modulation amount. This is our main modulation envelope for the various audio modules. So this does the VCO pitch frequency modulation for 1 and 2, and it also controls the cutoff for VCF 1 and 2. So let's just have a listen to what that does to one of our VCOs. I'm going to try it on VCO 1 and turn the modulation on. Okay, and now we can engage the sync for some Okay, so that's our synchronization. What else can we check out? We also have the FM. FM is kind of best used with triangle waves. Excuse me, not strictly, but so that's a synced triangle wave there. Let's turn the modulation off and turn the FM on. And instantly we get that metallic classic. So if we sweep the coarse tune of VCO2, we can hear how that modulates VCO1. And we can go either way with that, so we can use VCO1 to FM modulate VCO2 and vice versa. Same thing with the synchronization. Okay, let's have a listen to the LFO, and we can modulate. I'm going to use VCO2 on this one. Do you know what? Let's bring a square wave in. Let's turn the pulse width modulation off. We have two ranges on the LFO here. As you can see, we've got 5 waveforms. We have a sine wave, triangle, ramp up, random, stroke, sample and hold, and we have a square waveform. And these waveforms can be inverted via the modulation depth control. So when we're center, we have no modulation, or should have no modulation. This side we're opposite polarity. So let's have a listen to how that works with VCO2. Now we're in random. Remember, we can change the range as well, and the modulation depth. So what you're just hearing there was VCO1 with its FM still engaged, and this is being modulated by the LFO on random. So really good for sort of sculpting crazy sound effects when you run this through some effects. So what you're hearing right now is all 100% raw. Just added a noise generator to that. Okay, let's turn all those parameters off so you can hear how that works. Let's just have a listen to this square as well. Okay, so a bit of the old telephone ringtone going on there. Let's take that all back. Okay, as you can hear, this is the glide. Again, this bass is basically an LFO, another separate LFO, where we have a rate control here, and we have two separate waveforms. We have the triangle wave or the square wave. Okay, or we can change to the square wave here. Now let's go to full maximum depth. Okay, here's our glide. And a touch more. So we can get some quite extreme glide times there. Some super useful, some complete rubbish. Anyway, it all depends on what sound you're looking for. Let's just have a little test of the trigger. We've got the two trigger options. We can have the gate CV trigger option, or we can have the LFO to trigger the envelope. So I'm just going to show you how that works. As we can see there, we've got the pulsating, both the pulsating lights there. And if I increase the rate or slow it down, we can see how they're both moving together. Okay, so let's pop the gate for LFO1, or should I say the trigger for LFO1 back to gate mode, turn the LFO off. I'm not sure if I already pointed out the range switch for the LFO, so we can have, that's in our fast range, and that's in our slower range. So we can get up to quite, that's almost, you can almost see that not blinking because it's so fast. There's another control on here, which is external depth control. So basically what that is supposed to do is bring the LFO selected waveform out to the patch panel here at some point. So you can use this to modulate other external gear, and there's going to be a few other inputs at some point as well. Just trying to keep it really basic and simple for now. Oh, that's another thing I didn't really touch on, was there's so much to cover in this. I'm trying to do this as quick as possible, but there's so much to cover here. Let's have a listen to engaging the FM on a filter. So resonance to 0, filter all the way open. Let's turn the switch on. And what happens is VCO1 triangle frequency modulates the first filter, VCO2 modulates the second filter, so we've got a bit of a crossover there. Let's engage the FM on VCF2. Okay, so let's try and go back to basics. Turn all these parameters off. Let's take all the FM out. Let's put the master cut off. Open all the filters. Take the resonance down on both. No key tracking. Right, okay. So what I'm going to try and do here is, as best as I can, is try and demonstrate the velocity control. It still needs a little bit of tweaking here. So we have, obviously on the VCO, we've got the basic. We have the basic level. We turn to the velocity control. So that's our basic, that's our velocity control there. So obviously the softer I strike the key, the less the volume, the harder I strike the key, and the quicker, the higher the volume is. I still need to tweak the key step to be able to send out the right maximum voltage, so I can try and equal the maximum levels of between the constant control voltage and the velocity control voltage. So it was just a basic idea I wanted to try, and it seems to have worked to an extent. There we go. Just trying to figure out why we wasn't getting a pure sine sawtooth there. Just to have a listen to the master cutoff. And let's have a listen in double notch mode with no resonance, with the master cutoff. Just gonna change the input gain a little bit. Okay, so there we go, and that's that. Second envelope here is the basic amplifier envelope, as you can see, with the variation in the release time. So turn the release to slow. We have a slower release, obviously. Put it on back onto fast. And we just have again, we have an external depth output. So the idea of this, again, this controls an output jack on the patch panel, so we can use that envelope 1 to modulate any kind of external gear. And yeah, I can't really think of anything else I haven't really covered here. Obviously we have the LFO that I haven't really touched on, but not 100% necessary right now. Feedback drive, which sends the VCA back into the filter, into the mixer, to really crank it up and get some really nasty, gnarly tones. That's something I haven't kind of hooked up yet. I'm not in a rush to do that, to be honest with you. And yeah, like I said, I think I've pretty much covered everything I can. I'm trying to keep this video as short as possible, but it is about half an hour long, but there we go. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed listening to this and watching the video. I hope you've maybe learned something you didn't know. But my point is not, here we go, look what I've done. It's more, if I can do this, so can you guys. I hope you've been inspired. Thanks for locking and keeping tight with this one. And I shall be back soon. So yeah, please give me a like, give me a thumbs up. It all helps. And thanks to everybody who supported me from day one with this, with my projects. It all helps if you give this a like as well. We can sort of boost those views, etc. Anyway, catch you all soon. Stay safe and be lucky, people.